I moved from the US to China with the dog. I'm going to tell you the exact steps I took. She did not have to quarantine, and I did not use a pet travel service. I did all these steps myself. I didn't want to use a pet travel service because that was more expensive, and this was still very expensive. So let's get right into it. All of the steps I follow are on hphis.usda.gov. Mouthful, it's on the screen though. I followed these steps to a T. We flew here and she did not have to quarantine. The steps are also available on the website. I have Bella's folder here. Make sure you keep all your original paperwork, but we'll get to that part in a second. Step 1 is proof of rabies vaccination. The pet must be vaccinated twice within its lifetime. I had forgotten or misplaced Bella's rabies vaccinations from when she was a pup. I personally had no clue where Bella's paperwork was. So I had to get both of her rabies vaccinations before flying here. One thing to know, if you don't know where your paperwork is, or you know that your dog hasn't had a rabies vaccination recently, the rabies vaccine process is gonna take maybe 45 days because they get vaccinated once and then the vet has to wait 30 days before they can vaccinate them again. So that's what we did, and I'll show you the paperwork for that here. You're gonna wanna keep an original copy of the rabies vaccination. Mine was sent through an email, but the vet also printed it out. It wasn't on any kind of special paper. It has an electronic signature on it, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. The second thing you're gonna need is a microchip, but not just any microchip. It has to be ISO compliant. Luckily, when I purchased Bella 7 years ago, she was already microchipped. And so that microchip did so happen to be ISO compliant, not anything I had to do or change. But if your pet's not microchipped and you go get them microchipped, specify that you need an ISO compliant microchip. And if you have a microchip and don't plan to redo the microchip, then you just have to get a microchip reader to carry with you so that you can scan it yourself. So step 3, this is another one of those processes where I'm like, give yourself time because not everything's gonna be in your control. You're gonna need this laboratory test, rabies laboratory report. And it has to come from specific laboratories within the United States. So you're gonna go to your vet. You're gonna tell them that you need this test. This test was also like $500, this lab test. Like, come on, y'all, please. Anywho, they're gonna take the blood work or do whatever they're doing. I don't know, I'm not a vet. Whatever they did, they sent the results off to one of the, 5 approved laboratories in the entire United States. Mine got sent to Kansas State University Laboratory, and the test results took about 4 or 5 weeks. It could take up to 8 weeks. So give yourself space. That alone, you need about 2 months. Give yourself space, please. After you have that lab report, once again, you're gonna need an original physical copy. I was sent the PDF in an email. My PDF file printed off on regular paper will be perfectly fine because I guess they can also look it up. It worked. I'm here, she's here. So the 4th thing you're gonna need is an international health certificate. I only have 1 dog, but if you have multiple dogs, just understand that only 1 pet is allowed per traveler. So if you're coming alone and you have 2 cats or 2 dogs or a dog and a cat, you're gonna have to pick one, and I am so sorry. The name of your passport needs to match all the paperwork on all of these documents. Don't do any nicknames, abbreviations, don't leave anything out, just make sure it matches because they need to know whose dog this is. And this health certificate needs to be issued within 14 days of your arrival to China. Another thing where it's kind of out of your control and you need to time it right. The health certificates need to be issued by a USDA certified veterinarian. Everything you do, all of this paperwork needs to be done by a USDA accredited veterinarian. No one else, they must be USDA accredited. So call your vet before you show up, before you make an appointment, before you pay anybody. call and ask if there's a USDA accredited veterinarian on staff that can assist you, because they need to do the rabies, they need to do the lab tests, microchips. That vet is gonna need to sign off on everything, including your international health certificate that needs to be issued 14 days before your arrival to China. So you should, hopefully you are, because I think it makes it easier. I worked with the same vet the whole time. She knew what was going on. I knew what was going on. I didn't have to explain myself over and over. They're well versed. At least my vet was really good. She was so well versed in everything that was happening. I'm looking on the website like, okay, so, and then the ISO compliance, and she's like, yes, girl, this is my job. Oh, this is cool. I got you. But I was scared, but she was so sweet. She was so sweet. Thank you, Courtney. Make sure USDA accredited. I cannot stress that enough. Please don't forget that, y'all. Call your vet and make sure they're accredited with the proper certificates so that they can sign off on your pet. Okay, I'm done. Step number 5, have everything printed out, please. All of Bella's information is in this folder because it is a requirement. It's literally step 5 on the website. You can't have your paperwork. Along with the paperwork, you also need a photocopy of the dog. I have her little mugshot. I have her next to a ruler so that they can see she's not a big dog. Dogs that are larger, they do ask that you have a photo of the dog next to something so that they can see how big the dog is. And not just against a white background, because it's like, oh, I can't really tell how tall he is. So put him next to a couch or a TV or a ruler or yourself, I don't know. But they just need to see the scale of the dog in the photo. They didn't take the photos. They barely even looked at the photos. They didn't take the photos. They just kind of glanced at mine and it was fine. And then I moved on about my day. Once you get into the airport, there'll be an area where you need to go. There's like signs, it's like nothing to declare items. You're gonna go to declare item because your pet is the item you need to declare. You'll fill out some paperwork, they'll stamp, and you'll be good to go if all of your paperwork is good and up to date and it's cool. As I mentioned before, make multiple copies of everything. You will need to register your pet with the police station in whatever city you're staying in. They're gonna take some paperwork. I don't know, maybe if you travel or put your dog in a doggy daycare, take them to get groomed, they may want that paperwork to make sure your dog is Gucci. Hello, it is Editing Yari here. This next section is going to be about the airline I chose and the airline requirements and the steps I took to prepare Bella for the flight. So paperwork is done. If you want to know more about the flights and how I prepped her for the flights, feel free to stay and get some more information. I've mentioned this, but I'm going to go a little bit more into depth about it. I flew with EVA Airlines, EVA Airlines. It is a Chinese airline. Each airline is going to have different rules and requirements with pets. With my airline, there was absolutely no pets allowed in the cabin, period. No matter how small, nothing. All pets had to fly in cargo. Tickets for your pet is based on the weight. For Eva, we paid for her flight once we got there. For the airlines, I almost forgot something so important, y'all. There are certain times of the year and certain temperatures, extreme temperatures, very hot, very cold, where airlines will not fly pets at all. At least if they have to be in cargo. I think it'll be a little different if your airline allows for a cabin pet. But if it doesn't, like in my situation, you want to double check that it's not one of them days. I seen that for a few airlines when I was browsing around different airlines, so check those pet policies. For EVA Airlines, there are only a few types of planes that have temperature controlled cargos for live animals. Naturally, you want to make sure you're on that flight. When you're booking your tickets, you can see what the plane is. Make sure it's one of the planes that has temperature control for pets, otherwise they ain't flying. You want to make sure your pet's even allowed on the plane. And one way they can get denied is if you do not have the correct pet carrier. I'm going to put on the screen the exact information with what kind of pet carrier EVA Airlines required And that is exactly what I did. The cage needs to be plastic and rigid and have ventilation on all sides. The dog also needs to be able to comfortably stand up without its head touching the top of the cage and turn around comfortably within the cage. You also need to make sure you have adequate food and water for your baby. I also made Bella a little flyer and I taped it on top of her crate because I just wanted people to see her and feel like they got a little introduction to her. So maybe they'll be extra nice and love on her a little bit. I put on there that she's really anxious when she's away from her mommy, and please give her some attention if you can. They can't open the cages, but you know, just talk to her a little bit. They feed them while they're in there. They'll refill their waters and they'll give them extra food through the bars. We taped a little water bottle to the cage and we figured that'd be fine for the duration of our travel. We weren't traveling too long. It was just, what, 19 hours or so? So a full bottle of water we figured would be fine for her. She'd be so scared, I figured she probably wouldn't eat or drink much too anyway, so. We also purchased a dog storage baggie off of Amazon and clipped it to her cage. So I'll also put that on the screen so that you can see it. One more thing, I took her on a very long walk. I walked her for about an hour, and maybe for most people with bigger dogs it's not a lot, but my dog is lazy and she don't like all that. So I made sure she got as much pee and poop out of her system so that she didn't have accidents within the cage. Also, just in case she did have accidents, I had puppy pads in the cage. So there's a little plastic grate on the floor and I put puppy pads under it. I mean, it's what those types of cages are for. So if they pee, it just falls through the holes and goes into the puppy pad. If they poop, it's obviously just gonna sit on the holes. I also purchased wet wipes and shampoo for her, like a no rinse shampoo. So if she did have an accident, I'd be able to clean her up in the airport really quick. How was Bella during the flight? I was very scared. She's not used to being in a cage for long periods of time. She's not used to flying. She's away from me. I was terrified and I cried a lot thinking about how sad and confused she was gonna be. But she was okay. We had one layover in Taiwan. It was only 4 hours, thankfully. And they called me to the front desk and they showed me pictures of her, like, yeah, she's okay. This is how much water she has left. This is how much food she has left. Just giving me the updates, proof of life, and that she's fine. So that made me very happy to see her and see that she was doing okay, even though she may be really mad at me right now. If your dog's not used to crates, which Bella's not, she roams around freely. I don't lock her up when I leave the house. I don't lock her up at night. She walks around as she pleases. I wanted her to get used to being in and out of the crate. So I would start feeding her in there, like throwing toys in there, so that she would just go in and out of it herself so that she knew it wasn't something scary. I didn't want her to experience too many jarring things at once because she's not used to being in a crate. So what the hell's going on? Made sure that I socialized her with it as best I could for a few weeks up into the flight. On our way to the airport, we of course had her in the crate and she was in the back with all the luggage crying already. And I was just like, oh my gosh. She gets very anxious when environments change. When we move into a new apartment, or if I take her with me somewhere and I like walk out of the door and she thinks I'm leaving, she gets really, really scared, cries, and then she eventually stops. But it still makes me sad. So I was sad hearing her cry in the back with the luggage, and I'm like, oh, she has no idea that this is as easy as it's gonna get. She's supposed to be around a bunch of strangers. Yeah, I think that's all. I hope that I answered all the questions, as many questions as I possibly can that I have experience with. I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, just leave them in the comment section and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Give me a like, a subscribe, and yeah.